homogenized. Number one, yeah, Lily, yeah, telling her to mute me. Lily, you the one who needs to come up here and get this smoke. But anyway, when we talk about black and brown, it's like everybody can understand, identify what blackness is. But just like Noah was saying, this idea that you can bifurcate blackness from Latinidad is a problem. But also, too, it allows all Latinos to kind of fall under the umbrella of brown, and they're not all brown. There are white Latinos, y'all. There are Hispanics. They do not experience the same thing that those of us who are indigenous or black experience. It also, so like when I've always thought about black and brown unity, I'm thinking about those of us who are Amerindian, right? Those of us who are indigenous. And I have an issue with people who will just lump themselves under the umbrella of brown or people of color when you are not of color. We know damn well that in Mexico and other parts of Latin America, those who can present as white or are more racially white receive privileges and benefits over those of us who are not. And that translates over here into the US as well. And so when you guys do this, you can still experience xenophobia as a white Latino, as a light-skinned Latino. Absolutely, that still exists. But you do not experience racism the way that we do. And when I say people of color cannot be racist, I fucking mean that. Racism is a system created by white people. And y'all, what's funny about it? It wasn't created by Anglos. It was created by the Portuguese and primarily perpetuated by the Portuguese and the Spanish, y'all's ancestors. Y'all's. And I say that because I don't have Spanish ancestry. I speak Spanish because they colonized my people. I don't have Spanish ancestry. So it's those groups, those Iberian groups, who created race, who created the system of it, and it was solely to uphold whiteness and to subjugate primarily Africans and then later indigenous Americans. We will never be able to be racist. We can have racial bias and we can even have xenophobia or bigotry towards other groups, but y'all got to understand language has meaning. And so I wanted to get that out of the way because the anti-blackness in the comments is pissing me the fuck off. But to answer your question, I mean, I do think that there is much more of a need for us to find that common ground because of what's happening. Like black and brown people, black and indigenous people, and those who are of indigenous descent are being primarily targeted by this administration. In order to do that, though, everybody has to have a very real conversation about what racism and colorism looks like within our community, because y'all have it on full display right now. And honestly, it's pissing me the fuck off. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Carolina. Let me go to booked.
Communities go through a certain type of strife. We do also understand that anti-blackness is always never put at the forefront. Like, for example, even when it comes to this whole immigration thing, people still forget that black people could also be immigrants and they can also be deported. And because of that, they're never seen at the forefront. When a whole bunch of Haitians were deported, we didn't hear about it. Nobody cared about it. But now when there's people who are I guess native presenting, now it's a problem. So that is the issue that I occur. Going back to earlier, you was talking about nationalism. Yeah, I just wanted to say, because when I first came in here, the lady said, that's the problem with you black Americans, this, that, and the third. One, our parents are West Indian. So I don't know what she's doing all that for. That was just anti-blackness. But two, when it comes to nationalism, the issue that I have is that people try to make it seem as though the classism is the issue, so that when it comes to indigenous and black people, and they are trying to, when they're trying to talk about the oppression that they face, people try to say, oh no, you're just poor. You just need to work harder, to make it seem as though that is the reason why you were experiencing the things that you were experiencing, because of the fact that money is the issue and racism is not. So that's the issue I have when people try to downplay racism.
Okay. All right. Hey, Booked, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go, but I appreciate your perspective on the panel. Yeah. Thank you, fam. All right. Thank you. Let's go to Swan next. Same question that I have for all of the other panelists.
Can you say the question one more time?
Oh, yeah. I said, if we've got so much that, both communities are being attacked pretty much by the same group. And so why does it seem hard to come together given that both groups are being attacked and both groups are under such pressure right now?
Sorry, knock over my mug here. I'm going to refer to a term that was taught to me by the Black Cabinet Education, and that term is last place anxiety. I think what we tend to find is that There's first of all a lack of education in terms of what our circumstances are and how things are happening or playing out, right? Like for example, I will say this, and this is no shade to my fellow Black American people.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been hearing a lot of rhetoric, right, to where you have Black people who've been here for generations, and they're perpetuating this or using the same talking points about people who are immigrants from Latin America and saying problematic things. Like
Mm-hmm.
even as far as going to say that they are negatively impacting jobs, they're taking jobs away from us, they're doing this,
Mm-hmm.
that, and the third, when that's not true, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why over 400,000 Black women have lost their jobs here in the United States is because of Donald Trump's administration. His
Mm-hmm.
administration paid $215 million, right? And they to put out anti-DEIA propaganda, right? And then you like we know that DEIA benefits everybody overall, even wealthy cis het white men that are Christian. A lot of them are CEOs. When DEIA policies and procedures are implemented within a workplace, it brings the workplace up for everybody. So it truly does benefit for everybody. Now we do know that it did benefit white women like the most, right? But that's because it's not something that tore these systems down. It was something that mitigated discrimination, and not just for people on the basis of race, but for anybody that belongs to a marginalized community, right? Trump is the reason as to why over 400,000 Black women lost their jobs. It is not people coming here from Latin America. That rhetoric has to stop. And that rhetoric also, again, to me, is a sign of people not being educated on what these actual issues are, which is exactly why I say we cannot ignore racism. And we also know that that xenophobia exists. That is something that I think has been taught to us by our oppressors. And I'm not saying every Black American does this. I am not saying every Black American does this. I'm saying that there are some that do that, and it is harmful to perpetuate that narrative, even as going as far as saying, well, they need to stay in their country, right? What it is last place anxiety, right? Where you have groups that are oppressed and they're in proximity to each other, right? And if you don't necessarily know where the issues are coming from, you're going to see that fighting. There's also things that play out in society where you get one group that gets weaponized against another group, right? On purpose. That and so let me say this. The reason why we got to work through these things is because the division is only ever going to serve our oppressor, which is white people. The division will only ever serve our oppressor, which is white people, right? And that's not okay. I do think that in the past, also, there were coalitions, right? There were revolts, there were rebellions, there were groups of people that were Black people and people that are Latino, right? Indigenous, where they came together and held each other down, right? Through oppression. I think that that is something that can happen. I would say education, I think, is the biggest aspect of this, which is keeping that division. I think that's what it is education. For me, at least there's a start there, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that, Swan. Let me go again. Same question, Club J, and then we'll roll up to the new panelists.
Okay, cool. I still find it hard, you know what I mean, for both communities to come together. You know, like I said, it's going to take a lot of work. You know what I mean? We have to recognize, you know, what our leaders has spread the message, you know, to the communities. Let's start with Martin Luther King, you know, and how he presented, you know, this nation as still racism. He said that this nation is still sick with racism. So that in itself, you know, should tell you what work needs to be done and why we're so divided. You know what I mean? And second, Tupac, you know, said something about police brutality. You know, he mentioned, you know, because he confronted the audience and he confronted media about police brutality. There was a police officer that was sitting right down from him, and there was one guest that was saying, well, here's a police officer that puts his life on the line. And Tupac, he interjected and said, yeah, I have a lot of respect for him for that.
Mm-hmm.
But look where we're at. You know, we don't have any guns, we don't have any mace, we don't have any uniform or anything like that to protect ourselves. So that in itself lets you know what Tupac is saying and what he's stating, and it makes perfect sense because a lot of people in our communities don't have that kind of gear, to protect ourselves.
Okay.
And it's supposed to protect us as the Second Amendment, right? Easy E talked about uh, in an interview about the Rodney King beating from 1992. Yeah, four YT police officers were found not guilty, and look what happened. There was a big riot, and I understand the anger. You know, this happened during my era, and basically, I wasn't here at that time, but I was like watching it on live TV as it unfolds. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. And to the people in the chat, if you're gonna see all this mess, I suggest you guys educate yourself, and that's very, very important. To look at these things because these are the key points why we're still divided.
Okay. All right. All right, Club J. I appreciate you, brother. I'm gonna let you go.
Smitty,
Yeah.
I know
Thank
you
you.
don't
Thank you,
have
brother.
any mods up here, but I just want to say one thing real quick because the chat is wilding. Y'all are in a black man's live and like sitting here crying about unity, and a lot of y'all are being extremely anti-black, and I have to agree with the sister in the chat, Jen, who said the comments are an example of why we don't have that unity. Like, y'all are embarrassing us right now. Like, the shit that you are saying when black people are talking up here is disgusting. Y'all should be ashamed of yourself. And if you don't actually care about this type of unity, then go on somewhere. We're actually talking about the real issues on both sides of the conversation, and y'all are making it very obvious of why. Like, this is why I can't stand all of you people who call yourself Hispanic, like, and what those of you who are not connected to indigenous communities wanting to try to claim my people all the time. Y'all are really the colonizers. I'm gonna go back on mute, but Smitty, it's making me disgusted looking at the comments.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Catalina. We got some mods coming. Let me go to Noah. We'll go Noah, Mia, and then where's Liz, and then Declan. Noah, what do you think, man? What do you think about again? You kind of touched on it already in your first comment, but if you want to expand on that, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I really like the question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it reminds me of this clip from like my favorite academic ever, Joy James, who I highly recommend. But she's doing this like critique of intersectionality, and one of the things that she says is that just because we share precarity doesn't mean that we're working towards the same political project or building the same world, right? And so similarly, right, it's like Black people obviously are oppressed. Indigenous Latino people are certainly oppressed, right? I don't really like the term brown, but Black and brown people are both oppressed, right? They both share fighting against the same systems of white supremacy, colonialism, etc. And I think you can honestly make this argument even like intraracially, like among Black people. There are Black people who I don't want to organize with because just because we're both Black and subjected to anti-Blackness, that is not an organizing principle in itself, right? You need a unifying ideology. And so I think if we could like foment ideology that is grounded in like anti-imperialism, decolonialism, pan-Africanism, those would be the pathways to unity. But I don't think identity or the precarity that we experience alone is enough to actually make that possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's deep. That's deep. Let me go to Mia. Mia, your thoughts. Are we close to the Black and brown unity? And what else? Whatever else you would like to express. Welcome to the panel.
So, I wanted to say yes after the Super Bowl, but from what it looks like, the comments are going wild. I feel like we should have left that Super Bowl more humble and try to unite each other and love each other and be kind to one another. But I'm disappointed from the comments. I really am. One of the questions I do want to ask is because what can we do? Because maybe some people need to be educated. What can we do to unite?
Well, if you're asking me, I think we need to have these difficult conversations and address some of the pain that is being expressed by our communities. I know I've heard, I mean, to what Swan was saying, there's definitely xenophobia on the Black American side, and I think there is definitely a colorism problem, probably in both communities, but more so on the Latino side. And so I think, and that's just examples that I've seen, right, in holding prior conversations. But without addressing the issues, it makes kind of unity a fallacy, because how do you have unity and you feel like you're not necessarily loved on the other side? Now, I also think that standing up in solidarity is a first step, in the sense of, you have what's going on with ICE, you have what's going on, again, that I mentioned, with Black women in the government. And without that solidarity and mutual help, I also think unity is very difficult. So, but I think it's a step. Like, I think that there are people that say, "Oh, we have no chance," and I think we have people that say, "Oh, we're already unified." I think both groups are a little out of touch.
No.
So I think
Yeah.
we're somewhere in the middle. I guess is my answer, but other folks may have different opinions on that.
I feel like we just need to be more humble with one another and try to
Mhm.
understand each other, because I feel like Black and Brown should be a little bit more reunited. Just because how would you say it? I feel like I wouldn't say we're going through the same thing, but we're going through similarities. We've been through similarities.
Mhm.
So we should be more reunited.
Okay. I appreciate that. All right, let me go to, where's Liz? Liz, what do you think? Are we close to the Black and Brown unity? What do you think?
Good morning, first and
Good morning.
foremost.
Yeah, good morning.
I don't think that we are close to the unity. I think that there's a constant issue. I'm Dominican, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
constantly on, in a position where people think that because I'm Dominican, there's this stereotype around us being extremely racist off rip. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm from New York, and I don't think there's a crazier melting pot than New York City. I grew
Mm-hmm.
up in very diverse communities, and I'm extremely passionate about stuff like this because I feel like we should be closer together. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very difficult because as the communities that we are, I can understand why Black people feel like they're not getting the support that they need from us, especially Dominicans. I can only speak for my people, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a constant kick from us where one, we they don't acknowledge their background, and two, even though I feel like we are on the same pedestal, Dominican people look at Black people as if they are less than, and I think that that is terrible. I can understand why Black people don't want to back brown people too, because of the constant shit talking that happens on our end. And it makes it difficult for us to come together when, like you said, it feels like there is no real support from the other.
Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like it'd be a lot easier if people can acknowledge that as Black and brown people, if we were to come together, it'd be a lot easier to
Mm-hmm.
just combat what's going on in the system right now.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of Dominican people though who have, well, not say Dominican, I feel like Latino people, some people have this thing where they feel like they are anywhere near white people, and you're not. Like, if you have this thought in your head that you have any proximity to white people, like as far as privilege goes, you don't. And we are all seeing the same,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, for whoever has that mentality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do wish that we were closer together. I think it'd be a lot easier for us.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, Liz, I thank you very much. We're gonna go to Declan. Declan, what are your thoughts on Black and Brown unity? What do you think?
Well, I think that people need to stop conflating race and ethnicity together. That's for
Yes.
starters. That's for starters. And number two, I think I mean, yes and no. And here's what I mean. Yeah, because we are making great strides, but yeah, they keep setting us back. And I wanted to address the whole, well, we need to forget about color. That's some colorblind shit.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I mean, okay, let's just put it like this. Even if we were to forget, we'll always be reminded of why race is a thing. Always understand that. Because of the fact that as I said, as great strides as we are making towards the future, it will always be that select group of people that are trying to hold us back. Right?
Mm. Okay.
And what I mean by that is it's kind of like the world thrives on anti-blackness. So it makes it seem cool to hate on black people. Whole time black people are the ones that's helping you become free. And as far as the unity is concerned, education is needed. People just need to read a book, bro. I don't think people read enough books, especially on their own blackness. And please, I know the woman, I'm from New York too. I'm from Brooklyn to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the whole Dominican thing, I mean, that's an ethnicity or a nationality. That's not a race.
Mm-hmm.
And Latino's not a race neither, but until 2030, but I digress.
Mm-hmm.
I know the difference. Thank you.
Okay, cool, because a lot of people don't. So I'm just saying in general.
No, I was speaking more so on my experience because even when I just said I was Dominican, they was trying to be funny in the comments. Like I'm not one of those I'm Dominican, me no black. I don't do that because my dad is a brown man and I'm fully aware of my background. Like I don't even play them games.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. I just want everybody to be more educated on blackness if you are black, because at the end of the day, white Latinos are not people of color, despite there being Latinos, and Latinos not a race.
Okay. All right. Let me go to. Let me ask you a question, Declan. When you say that, there have been, white Latinos who have said, "Hey, Smitty, I've come to your panels, and I'm going through the same fear that other Latinos are going through with ICE and stuff like that, and I feel like that's a form of my reality being denied." What would you say to somebody that might be feeling that, Declan, in the chat right now? And then Catalina, I'll come to you next. What do you think?
Repeat that question again.
Yeah, so I've had a white Latina actually DM me and say, "Hey, Smitty, I was in your space, and someone said something similar to what you just said." And they said, "Hey, we're going through the same thing with ICE. We're just as afraid as anybody else. And we say we have it different or easier, it makes it feel like you're erasing, or that person was erasing our lived experience." What do you think about that?
They voted for that. They voted for that. They the one dancing on them stages, man. Like, I will vote for Donald Trump. They voted for that. But it is what it is. That's the bet they lay on. They got to lay on that.
Okay. All right. Let me go to Catalina. Catalina, your thoughts, and then we will cycle. I know we got a lot of people in the request. Go ahead, Catalina.
Yeah. So, again, Lily in the chat, girl, you lucky I don't know where you at, because you and your racism right now is wild. I have to agree with everybody who is talking on the race and ethnicity issue. Y'all conflating race and ethnicity is getting me tight. This is also, so speaking from an indigenous perspective, this is one of the things I have where a lot of people who are racially Amerindian or have Amerindian ancestry automatically assume that they're indigenous. You're not indigenous. I'm a citizen of my tribe. I'm connected to my people. I grew up in my culture. You are not indigenous without having that connection. You have to have a community. That's what makes you indigenous. So I feel like what's very interesting about these conversations is that about 15 years ago, these Latinos who call themselves Hispanics did not want to be indigenous or black at one point. They did not want to be, right? Now, all of a sudden, everybody wants to acknowledge this mixture and we're all the same people, right? That's my biggest problem. Y'all want to appropriate the parts of black and indigenous Latino culture that you like while still holding on to your racism and your anti-blackness, and then you're also like your European superiority, and I have a problem with that. I think that when it comes to who's being targeted by ICE, yes, white Latinos are getting swept up, but they are not the primary targets, because the people who are being primarily targeted are brown and black people. And that's the same reason why we have Native Americans. Again, I'm Native American from both sides of the border. We have Native Americans from the US who are getting detained and held hostage because of their skin color. They are more likely to be stopped than a white Latino from fucking Argentina, Venezuela, or Cuba, or whatever the case is. Now, there are other factors that play into that, so I'm not going to take away from the xenophobia that absolutely exists. But when it comes to race-based discrimination, you do not experience that the same way that we do. And I feel like it's just a very disingenuous argument to get up here and want to talk about solidarity, which I do believe in, but I'm an individual. I'm not going to sit here and act like that's the case for my entire community, because y'all are wilding in this chat right now. Every time a black person speaks, whether they're Latino or American black, y'all are saying the craziest shit in the chat and then wanting to claim that you're being they're racist against us. It's not racism. It's not racism. And if somebody is going to call out your problematic behavior, that's not fucking xenophobia either. That's y'all like not contending with the fact that in our home countries, y'all are the ones that oppress us. Well, I mean, both are my home country, but y'all are the ones that oppress black and brown people in Latin America. And I'm going to keep saying it, because no matter how much education is being given to you by black and indigenous people on this panel, y'all are still saying the craziest shit in this chat. And I don't understand how you can like base your entire life off of this type of racism, but then want to deny it when it's convenient when you're in a black space. I don't know. I understand the concern when it comes to, there should be more unification. I will continue to preach that, and I will continue to act upon it. But a lot of y'all are not acting upon it because you're not even listening to the black voices in the room right now. And that shit has me really tight right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Carolina. Let me bounce up real quick to MAGA Matters. MAGA Matters. What are your thoughts on Black and Brown Unity?
I honestly feel like it's being called Black and Brown Unity, but it's really more so just political alliance, only because on this side of the football, Black
She's muffled really bad.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's a little bit better.
Okay. I feel like it's being called Black and Brown Unity, but it's really just political alliance, because on this side of the football, we're very aligned, so much so that we won. So it was Black and Brown Unity on our side that actually helped win the election. So I don't feel like Black and Brown is the right identity right here, because on our side we are aligned. We're more so on the citizenship is the line. It's not about race or ethnicity. It's really about citizenship, which has nothing to do with race or ethnicity.
I see what you're saying. So you feel like Black conservatives and Latino conservatives are very aligned. There's not
absolutely. We won. We're very powerful.
Hello?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So real quick. Okay, let's do this. Let me let Panda come in, and then we'll bounce down to Swan. And I know folks probably want to interact with MAGA Matters. So let me let Panda get her opening comment. What do you think, Panda?
You didn't win because of the black votes on your side. Because when we look at the breakdown of the numbers, 92% of black women voted for Kamala, and I think it was like around, I keep hearing numbers anywhere between like 78 to 82% for black men. So that's a lie. And I just think I think it's just delusional, like what you just said, and it makes no sense, but it also tracks. I mean, you guys voted for a schmatzi, so I mean, it tracks. So I'm not surprised. So I'm just like really not going to waste. I'm not wasting my time on MAGA in 2026. I'm just not doing it. But to the Black and Brown issue, I actually had a really interesting conversation last night on one of my really good friends' lives. I don't know if you guys know her, YouTube Hood storyteller Janae. She runs this really good Black female grassroots initiative to not just only feed homeless in Atlanta, but get Black women and Black femme presenting people out of the country, because it's not safe right now for us. And it was just a really interesting conversation, because we covered being Black American as far as ethnically and being disrespected. And now finally, when we're setting boundaries ethnically and as a group of people, there has been a lot of pushback. And we're like the only group of people when it comes to things like Black History Month and trying to explain to people like why we have Black History Month. There's a pushback. There's also a pushback as far as like everybody else gets to separate themselves, but we don't. And I've also noticed this in the Black and Brown conversation as far as voting, because when we bring up the Latino vote, we're constantly told, but those were the Cubans. And that's not necessarily true. And so I want you guys to kind of look at it from a standpoint of when a Black woman goes into a room with 10 Latino women, she's got to figure out which 5 of y'all are safe, right? And the same thing does not track for when y'all walk into a room with 10 of us. And so I think, like, I understand Black and Brown unity, but I think we're skipping a few steps because we're not addressing that part right there, right? So everybody wants the unity part without addressing the clear elephant in the room. Y'all keep failing the open book test. And when we call you guys out on it, and not only the open book test, but we gave you the answers to it, right? Just kind of want to end that with, it's still not respected as far as like the issues that Black Americans go through and the warning signs we give America. Like, for instance, we've been giving America warning signs for hundreds of years that white people like to eat children, right? And now that the e-files are out and it's happening to white children, everybody, white and brown, is suddenly acting like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is absolutely ridiculous. See, that's the last straw. That's it. Even MAGA voters. That's it. That's just, I'm not going to do it. And Black Americans are sitting here with our arms out going, do they not see us here? Nobody sees us here, right? So I just think we keep having these discussions, and I kind of get a little frustrated because I'm all for Black and brown unity. Halftime show, loved it. I think we need more Latino representation in our government, and in our communities, right? But like, we're putting the horse before the carriage before the horse, or whatever the saying is. And we're just not addressing this issue, and we keep calling y'all out on these issues. It's pushed to another part of the community, but we're not allowed to do that, right? Black on Black crime. We're not allowed to separate ourselves, right? We're not to say, oh, that's just these people in the community, right? No, we've had to deal with the false 1350 fallacy for how many decades now? This fallacy about single Black women, the fallacy about Black women in education, the fallacy about Black female jobs, the fallacies about Black females when it comes to medical apartheid, right? So I just want us to, I know for me, like, especially the Black women I hang out with, the conversations I hear from them is, I'm focusing on my people because I cannot trust y'all. And I feel that because when and that whole analogy of breaking it down to, when I walk into a room of 10, I got to figure out which 5. But when you walk into a room of 10 Black women, you basically know all 10. You're cool, you're safe, you're good, no matter from what part of the world you're from on a global level. We don't get that same respect. And now during Black History Month, we're now, for the first time, I'm hearing this is Black history. Black American history is not Black American history. It wouldn't be Black American history without African history. It's combined with other things. Hip hop is actually African. Just down the line, the disrespect of Black American culture is, I think, why we've gotten here with this FBA nonsense, right? Because I think 20 years ago, if we would have heard the FBA rhetoric, most of us would have been like, this is crazy. I myself can't stand them. They make my butthole pucker. But I also understand the reaction, right? It's kind of like almost like a reactionary abuse relationship. So I'm looking at the FBAs and I'm trying to like understand what that reaction is. And I get why the reaction is that way. So I just implore everybody to understand that if you want that Black and brown unity, you have to understand that the Black community has not just decades, but hundreds of years of empirical data from many different groups in this country that continuously disrespect and make it literally unsafe. Like, the Black and brown community still at a 50% rate voted against the rights and safety of Black Americans. And so you have to understand that mentality of why there is this distrust.
All right. Thank you, Panda. I appreciate that. All right. We're going to bounce down to Swan and go up to Noah, and then we'll cycle. I know we got a lot of folks in the request, so we're going to start the cycle here in 1 second. Go ahead,
May I
Swan.
respond to her statement regarding the, I guess, the dismissal
I
of...
did call her to say something about MAGA, so I don't mind. I
Oh,
can go
yeah. Go
afterwards.
ahead,
Yeah.
Maggie.
I was
Go ahead,
trying to
Maggie.
be
Yeah, real
patient.
quick.
I
Go ahead.
found it really dismissive because when you're talking about Black and brown unity, you literally are promoting Black against Black unity. Because I'm still BLK. I'm also FBA. On paper,
Oh shit.
right? So,
Was that a question?
Okay.
real quick,
So hold on, y'all. Hold on.
Oh,
Real
I'm sorry.
quick.
I thought she asked me a
Real quick.
question. My B.
Real quick, y'all. So yeah, Maggie, I can't quite understand you. Your phone has kind of a weird echo to it.
Yeah, that was my B.
sorry
I
about
didn't
that.
mean
Can
to
you hear me
interrupt her.
now?
Yes, better.
Okay. I found it really dismissive to talk about Black and brown unity while promoting Black against Black unity, because I'm still Black, right? I'm also FBA on paper. I just
Mm-hmm.
have the right to make the decision that I want to make
Mm-hmm.
based on my beliefs, which
Mm-hmm.
is what I did. And
Okay.
so to say that BLK people weren't pivotal in this election
Mm-hmm.
is not true statistically. There were more
Mm-hmm.
BLK men that voted this year than any other year, Republican,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we won. Our vote was very pivotal in this election.
Okay.
Which is why you're on that side of the football complaining. Again, on this side of the football, Black and brown unity helped win the election. We were very powerful, and there was only a few of us. But
Mm-hmm.
again, we exist. So when you make the statement about Black and brown unity, please don't dismiss how absolutely diabolical BLK people have been to those who think differently than them. It's horrific.
Okay.
It's
Was that a
Okay.
terrible.
question? Can I
Oh,
answer? Can I just? It's
I
going to be
don't
2
know.
seconds.
So yeah,
It's going to be
let
2
me just make
seconds.
sure. Were you addressing Panda with that question? Were
He
you
I
was
asking?
was,
because
because I
I was
had gotten
Okay,
treated
go
so
ahead.
terrible by BLK
Sure.
people.
So I'm just make this really brief because I promised myself after the election that I wasn't going to lose myself over Blaga and MAGA. I think you guys are too far gone. While you have the right to vote to who you want to, I, as a Black woman, have the right to not let a rabid dog back in the house, and I refuse to do so.
Okay,
So
it's
stay
still
mad.
BLK though, sweetie.
Yeah, no, you're a rabid dog, and like
I'm
Harriet
still
Tubman, and like
BLK. And
Harriet
then
Tubman, I believe in
understand that you
sometimes
sound
taking out
exactly like
people
the
in my
people you
community who are a
proclaim to
cancer.
not like.
And I
It
land
is
my
so
plane there, Social
racist to
Smitty.
make
Okay.
that statement.
I land my plane there.
Very
All right.
racist.
Let me go to Swan. Swan, if you want to come in, go ahead, fam.
Woo, Lord, it's getting heated up in here, Smitty. Um, so I am gonna take a different route with the discussion. So I think when with MAGA, right, the only thing that they united in was a rejection of understanding whether they are Latino or Black or Indigenous if they voted for Trump. What they did was they didn't unify in the sense that we are talking about, right? They let their oppressor fill their head, right? And make them think that, hey, if you vote on this side, you know, things are going to be better for you. You voted, here's the thing, it's nonsensical. It is nonsensical. You voted with schnazis. You voted with groypers. You voted with Proud Boys. You voted with the very people, right, that would much rather peel their own skin off than actually sit down and have a discussion with you, right? Like they cannot talk to those that are on the far right. I know for a fact ain't no Black, Indigenous, or Latino person sitting down with the far right actually having a discussion. That's not happening. They tricked you into hating yourselves. And that was the unification that she was talking about. So let's get that out the way. Now, I want to take this conversation back to education because that is the most important thing. Let me just make a quick point. I don't know if y'all know that the director of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, studied African American history. He specialized in slavery. I want every person to look this up. That man specialized in slavery, okay? And this man is actively removing historical aspects of our experiences here, Black, Indigenous, and Latino experiences out of museums. They're trying to take it out of textbooks, right? And this is where a lot of this tension is coming from because we're getting lost on who we are, right? Like if I was to, for example, like there were resistance movements that happened in Puerto Rico that involved Black people and Indigenous people, right? There were coalitions that existed, right? Coalitions here in the United States, right? Between Black and Indigenous people. There are historical alliances. We could talk about the Black Panther Party and the Young Lords. We could also talk about rebellions that took place that involved African people and Indigenous people coming together and Latino people as well, right? The problem is that information isn't accessible to us. It's not readily available to us, right? Why would they want to educate you on how you were able to unite together and reject white supremacy and make a way and progress in society for yourselves? That's not what whiteness wants, right? I didn't say anything about Hispanic people, so don't get it twisted. I said Black, Indigenous, and Latino. That's what I said. And I know that we can fit in all groups. But what I'm getting at is that we should all start there. Look to where the true education is. And I think re-educating ourselves will definitely instill a sense of purpose within us. And I think it'll also give us more understanding as to what each other's experiences are. And then again, educate yourself on the different ways in which we were able to work together to reject white supremacy. I think that's really important. I'll end there for now.
Yeah, thank you, Swan. Let me go to Mia. Mia, real quick. I know you got to go. Yeah, feel free. Final comment, whatever you like to say.
Yeah, so I have to go to work, so you can drop me after this, Smitty. But I wanted to just add, I understand why we're so divided after these comments, and it's so sad, honestly. But I want to add that when I was young, I was raised to be racist, and after I left home, I chose to reteach myself to not be racist like that, because I now understand why we're so divided, and I feel like a lot of Latinos and Mexicans and Hispanics, you name it, were raised to be racist, and it all starts with us in this chat to stop and reteach ourselves not to be racist and unite.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming up. All right, we're gonna let Mia go. All right. Also, Liz, I gotta let you go. Anything else you want to say, fam?
No, I appreciate y'all having me up here, and I'm sorry for the interesting comments that people who are not in touch with themselves are making in the chat, because that shit is actually sad as hell. One more thing, please, MAGA, do not come up here and make it seem like y'all are unified, because
Cut off.
Yep. Yeah, we can't hear you.
He probably said mute and unmute.
Oh,
I'm sorry, my phone was dying. MAGA, please stop acting like we're all in agreement with what y'all got going on that side. The only thing y'all can agree on is the real interesting things that are going on in the world, and that's the only reason why y'all can come together for anything. And it's all about hatred when it comes to y'all. So please don't ever do that again. That's about it, though. Thank y'all for having me up here.
yeah. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for coming up. All right, so we're gonna let Liz go. Thank you. All right, let's go to Noah. Go ahead, Noah. Anything you want to talk about from what you've heard?
Like this FBA shit, but
Mm-hmm.
hearing her speak, FBA and MAGA is a very interesting combo. It's not surprising. I mean, my uncle is FBA and a Hebrew Israelite, so that's also a funny one. But what Swan said about education, I think is definitely really crucial here, because like I like to think like what produces the FBA subject, and I feel like it's a convergence of both like the literacy crisis and also what I was talking to you about when you had that panel on MLK Day about how people sort of bastardize revolutionary history and Black revolutionaries in particular. And I see FBA as a type of like bastardization of Black nationalism. Leave it there.
Yeah, no, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Let me just skip around a little bit, y'all. Oh, Penny, you want to say something real quick?
Can I just respond to that? Like, I agree with everything that you said, Noah, spot on. But I also think when we look at the FBA again, we always immediately say, like, you know, of course they are tools of white supremacy, they're agents of it. But I never hear the conversation of like how we got here. Because just 20 years ago, like I didn't really hear, I can't speak for everybody else, but like FBA wasn't a thing. And so I don't agree with it. Have a huge problem with it. You were spot on. I especially the Black nationalist movement. Never heard that argument before, and I just think that's a really interesting topic, and I think it's spot on. But I also think that we also don't acknowledge like how we got here. The white supremacy part, yes, but like also the part of like how Black Americans have constantly fought for freedoms, like for instance 14th 15th amendments, and a lot of Black and brown people who come to this country benefit from the 14th and 15th amendment plus the 4th and the 5th due process amendments. And like dealing with, I just don't think, okay, I don't think, Smitty, we talk about the trauma aspect of it, right? Because being Black American, right, you're fighting white supremacy, and then you have people coming to this country who look like you, and then who are adamantly against you, and deny your culture, and you're seeing your culture being appropriated on a global level at that, right? No acknowledgement of that, of not just in the country that you're in, that you helped build. Then you start to see years later also people claiming, you know, immigrants built this country, and like no talk about slavery and the foundation
foundation of it. I know that that's white supremacy, right? But I don't think we go deep into the detail of the trauma that I think Black Americans generationally keep dealing with, and now they're dealing with. Like, remember 20 years ago when it was cool to be like, even in the late 90s, like identifying as Black, we were wearing dashikis, and they were telling us you can't wear dashikis because it's cultural appropriation, right? And so Black Americans were like, okay, cool, no problem, won't do that. So start kind of looking into more of like understanding being Black American and being okay with that identity, because for a long time we were told we don't have a culture. This being Black American is not an ethnicity. It's you know, whatever, so and so on. So I think definitely we need to have this psychosis conversation of the psychosis that comes along with FBA and the absolute ridiculousness of it and indigenous erasure that comes with it. But I think we also need to talk about the trauma aspect of it. And I think a lot of it is not accepting it, not saying it's okay. I think a lot of it is a trauma response. And we don't talk about that enough. I think we just blow it off as, oh, it's just a bunch of Black people using tools of white supremacy to create divide. And then we kind of leave it at that, and we don't go more into detail. And I think we really should. I think we need to. I think we need to talk about the trauma that's creating this very divisive and destructive and dangerous attitude amongst our community.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Panda. Let me just get the new panelists worked in. We got Harmony, we got Luis, and we got Des. Harmony fam, what do you think? Are we closer to Black and Brown unity? Or do you think we're further apart, or maybe in the same spot?
I don't believe in the concept of unity. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's about solidarity. I think unity is just a way to basically say identity politics. And while identity politics, there can be good in it, right? But at the same time, we find ourselves uniting, I use air quotes, uniting with people just because they look like us, of like Pan-Africanism, or, you know, what liberation actually looks like, right? Working outside of the system, not aligning with white supremacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not feeding into this two-party system and the corruption that both sides creates, right? Because, and, you know, feeding into this idea of Black patriotism, which is very oxymoronic, right? And just fundamental things that, you know, if we're talking about actual liberation, it's about solidarity. It's not about unity. I'm not going to unite with someone just because they are Black, or just because they're Puerto Rican, or just because they meet any of my personal identities, or just because they're queer or non-binary, like I am, right? Because that would be backwards. Because then that means I'm uniting with fascists, just as I'm uniting with people who want actual liberation, and those two things clash. And you can call it semantics, but then I just see where you are when it comes to your ideology. You don't have any foundation in your ideology if you call it semantics. If you're saying that unity is greater, we can't just unify on the fact that we have the same phenotypical, you know, structures, not structures, features, et cetera, right? There's plenty of Black people throughout history that did not even believe that we should have been released from chattel slavery, right? And slavery still exists in this country. It's legalized. Harriet Tubman left people behind for a reason. So another thing to think about is like, how can if we're talking about brown in this instance, Latino is what I'm guessing. But even outside of brown Latino people, you have brown Asian people, right? And there's aspects of colorism and anti-Blackness within these communities. So how are we talking about any type of solidarity and unity with people when even in Latin, like I'm Latina, even in the Latino community, that we're not accepted as Black people. We're not accepted as Afro-Latino, and everyone wants to say, especially in like Puerto Rico and DR, oh, we're triracial, which is intentional erasure of Black people, an intentional erasure of Black people, of enslaved Africans, and a revision of the transatlantic slave trade and the harm that it still causes today. Slavery and the lack of the abolishment of slavery in the United States is the foundation of why we are still oppressed, because everything else is a symptom of slavery as it has not been abolished. So no, I don't believe in unity. I believe in deconstruction, decolonizing, and that's everything from anti-Blackness, racism, ableism, all the isms that is created under the umbrella of white supremacy. So if you have not and you're not willing to unpack and decolonize those things, then no, I'll have solidarity in you, like in the bigger cause of you being oppressed, right? But when it comes to individual solidarity, I cannot, quote unquote, unite with you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Harmony.
The shared toys are going to play. You understand that? So it's not in our nature. It's taught. It's systematically taught to divide, and classify people. It starts with religion. It starts with classerism. All that. Socialism. I mean, all that plays a factor, because if you notice, the elites, the richest people in the world, they're different colors and they get along. They're in the island rocking together, doing that fucked up shit. But yeah, it's socialism, and that's what people understand. But rich people, they don't have time to worry about who likes them, how they're oppressed. They're worried about how they're getting money.
So real quick, Luis. Yeah, real quick. I think Swan wants to come in and just address something you said real quick, and then I'll let you get finished. Then we'll go to Des.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Sorry, just a little education here. Racism, that starts in the womb. It starts before the child is born. And white people, including white Latino people, are racist. And now, not in the sense that they are biologically, right? But this comes down to the treatment. We know that when it comes to Black and Indigenous women, there are higher maternal mortality rates and infant mortality rates, right? This is starting at birth or even before birth, right? That we're exposed to in comparison to white women, right? So, and that impact of that, right, when it comes to medical racism is going to create that foundation for how life is going to be. There's a disparity that starts before the child is even born. And then in addition to that, infants as young as 6 months can recognize different racial categories, and children have formed racial biases by as young as 3 years old. We know this because of the doll test, right? This was a test that has been recreated many times, and it's also been done in different countries where you had children as young as 3, right, who were asked questions about they were asked questions about who they thought was the good doll or the bad doll or the mean doll or the smart doll, right? And they would point to which doll they thought, right? There was a black doll sitting in front of them and a white doll. And they would apply the negative responses or negative attributes to the black doll and the positive attributes to the white doll, right? And this was done with children who are coming from different demographics. And so what I'm saying is, we cannot sit here and say that this doesn't start at birth. It starts before birth, right? Because again, the maternal care, the infant care that they're receiving at a hospital, we see that there are racial disparities there. The reason why I'm saying this is because it's important. It's got to be addressed. So yes, this does start before the children are even born.
No.
Okay. Let me go. Luis, if you want to finish up, and then I'm going to let Des, and I know some other people have some more to come in.
Weird ass MAGA motherfuckers, all racist and shit.
Just be careful with the cursing, my brother.
Yeah, fucking weird. Those weird motherfuckers fucking make a fucking halftime.
He's asking you not to cuss. Why are you still doing it?
All right, I won't cuss. Whatever.
Thank you, Harmony. Thank you, fam. I appreciate you. All right, let me go to Des, and then we'll drop down to the other folks in the panel. Des, what do you think? How do you feel about Black Brown Unity? Do you feel like we're getting closer? What do you think?
Hey, Smitty. I think that unfortunately the halftime show is like pacifying a lot of these conversations in a way, and I knew that was going to happen. Like, just goes to figure. I feel like that's something that these institutions are really good at doing, like kind of like putting this Band-Aid over things and this kumbaya stuff. I mean, I love the halftime show as much as the next person, but that's just realistically that's what's going on, I feel. And now there's a lot of clashing with, what that means and so forth. But I will say, I just to hold some people from the conversation earlier accountable. The triracial stuff, I think, is in Puerto Rico, at least, it is this narrative that has been pushed since the territorial colonial status had been basically officiated on the island. After that happened, and with the first governor that we had here, there was an enforcement and a force in making sure everybody knew through the school curriculums throughout the whole island that everybody believed they were Black, Indigenous, and Spanish. That is a whole thing that's been pushed since then. I want to say since the 50s, because before that, it wasn't a thing to say that you all of these three things. And that was something that was definitely enforced by the United States government within our own curriculums down here. I just want to preface it that because people are writing really hard with that, knowingly using their families as like this bait of like, oh, my grandmother's this, or my aunt or my uncle or whatever it is, to like take themselves out of any sort of accountability of their part of benefiting from this kind of system, and eventually erasing the Taino, the people who actually identify as Taino, and the people who are obviously of African descent. So that's something that I really want to preface it, because I don't think a lot of people know about that. And I don't think a lot of people know that the US government is very much involved in how we identify the way that we do down here.
Okay.
Can I just say something to add on to what she said? It's not a correction, but I just think it's well, I guess it is kind of a correction. But there's no shade to you, Des, because I agree with everything you said. When you said the people that are obviously African descent, we're Black. So I don't agree with the 30, 60, 90, but there are people, like you said, who may have a Black grandmother or a Black auntie, and they want to hold on to that Blackness and claim it for their own, even though they phenotypically do not appear as Black, right? So those would be the African descendants. We are Black.
Completely agree.
Okay. I think Panda, you want to jump in? Go ahead, and then we'll drop down to Carolina.
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to add to something that Swan said, because I love that she brought it up, because I feel like we don't talk about it enough. We talk about generational trauma all the time, but we don't talk about generational oppression, and how just like generational trauma is passed down from person to person for generations, so is oppression, and it's never talked about. So like when white people come up here and say, how can I be inherently racist? That's crazy. I can't be born that way. Yeah, literally you can, just like we're born with the generational trauma that has literally changed our DNA and our nervous systems. The same thing goes for racism.
Okay. Thank you, Panda. All right, let me drop down to I think let me get Declan back in, because I think we skipped him. Go ahead, Declan. Whatever you want to comment on, fam.
I mean, honestly, man, I was really amused by the MAGA lady when she says we won. What did you win? What did you win? I just want to know that. And with the whole well, I don't even want to speak on the diaspora, honestly, but as I said, people got to read, man. People got to educate themselves, man. People got to just sit down there and focus on introspection. People got to focus on introspection instead of winning empty prizes. Winning empty prizes. That's what y'all winning. Empty prizes. Your man's out here ruining this country. But we're not gonna talk about that. I'm sorry. I don't want to get on a tangent with that one. But yeah, you didn't win anything, especially if you're a Black person. Listen, let me say this right now. Let me get up for this shit. To all the blaggers and laggers and flaggers with all them different flags, you Black immigrants that don't know better when you get over here, you didn't win anything by having conservative ideologies. You didn't win anything. Just a miseducated Black person that been assimilated to white culture. That's all there is to it. And the more you step away from your Blackness or whatever is, the more lost you become as time progresses. You're still a victim of racism. You're still a victim of racism no matter what happens. You're still a N-word in a coupe, even if you got a Benz.
Okay. All right. Thank you, bro. All right. Catalina, go ahead, fam.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to all the beautiful knowledge from the Black and Indigenous people on this panel. Big shout out. I think like what's irritating me is to continue to see the conflation of race and ethnicity in this chat. Like no matter how much information and education is being thrown at y'all, you're still missing it. Like I saw somebody in the chat say, "What do you mean white Latino? I'm half white and half Latino." I looked at your picture. You're white. Like you're 100% white. You're just a couple different flavors of white, and that's okay. Like this is the biggest issue of like what I said of like conflating what is the brown community. And I think that there are issues on both sides of this. Like I was happy when the Dominican sister was talking earlier, because there is a lot of anti-blackness within the Latino community. And if we want to talk about the Dominican population specifically and what they've done to Haiti, like cool, that's valid. It's also valid to talk about the fact that you have people who want people who are not racially classified as black in the Dominican Republic to identify as black. We need to talk about all things. I believe in nuance and I believe in being non-biased. So I think that, again, and I agree with what Harmony said. When I talk about black and brown unity, for me, I am talking as an individual. That is something that is part of my personal ethos. That is something that I advocate for. So if I experience some type of anti-indigenous rhetoric or nationalist rhetoric from a black person, I'm not at all going to hold that to the entire black community. But at the same time, if black people are telling me people in your community are doing X, Y, and Z, whether it's the Native American northern side or the Latino diaspora, I'm listening to them because I'm witnessing it. And this is what I mean. When the guy was up here and saying like, oh, that like children don't have the racism or whatever, or the bigotry. When I was little, even from my own community, you know, they would refer to us as los indios because we practiced our culture, because we were connected to our culture. We spoke our languages. And again, these are the same people now that are taking DNA tests and want to be big indigenous all of a sudden. So like the fact that you guys are saying that it is not an issue for children, you're absolutely wrong. And I feel like you're not even being honest about your own experiences with black and brown people from your own community, the Latino diaspora, before even talking about the anti-blackness you hold for black Americans. And so this is why I will always call somebody out when they say Hispanic. I am not Hispanic. You might be Hispanic, but if you are, then we need to address the fact that that means you either, one, are racially white and benefit from white privilege, or you absolutely crave a proximity to whiteness and identify with that colonial identity more so than any other part of your identity. So I just think that I think that there's still a fundamental misunderstanding, but I also am just irritated that no matter how much information we are providing on this panel, y'all are still wild in the chat because hit dogs holler. You're pushing back because you're not wanting to acknowledge how you are complicit in this system and how you are agents of white supremacy. If we're going to call out FBA for being agents of white supremacy, y'all are too. So I'm just, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to actually get through the frontal lobe to understand what these differences and nuances are.
Yeah, so let's stay on that topic a little bit because I know there are people that identify Hispanic in the chat, and I think when I said what I said earlier, there were a couple folks that felt the same way as the person that had DM'd me and said, "Hey, again, Smitty, I'm really afraid. I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for Kamala Harris. I might get detained, whatever it may be. I'm being marginalized, and no one seems to care because I identify as Hispanic." What would you say to that person? What do you think, Carolina?
What would I say to the person repeat the last part of it?
Yeah, so they identify as Hispanic. They're
Yeah.
white, but
Yeah.
they feel like, hey, they got to take their passport around. They got to take
Yeah.
and they're saying, hey, I didn't vote for this. So
No, so I'm gonna reiterate, because there were a couple of points that were dropped earlier that were super major. So this first part is, yes, xenophobia. People who are even white can experience xenophobia. I mean, shit, Eastern Europeans sometimes experience xenophobia from Anglo-Americans, right? It's still not the same. So we are allowed to address multiple things at once. We can talk and chew gum at the same time. And I think that's where people are not wanting to acknowledge. You're still not experiencing racism. And the fact that the people who are being primarily targeted are black and brown, we see this. It's not necessarily country of origin. Black Americans are getting detained and harassed. Native Americans who are citizens of federally recognized tribes are getting detained and harassed. So I've seen several white Latinos be able to skate through, but then, yeah, you're right. They might hear you speaking, and then all of a sudden, okay, that's an issue. We can look at it holistically. And I think it's important because I can't remember which one of these beautiful women said it earlier. When people are talking about the vote and they're like, oh, that was the Cubans. It wasn't just the Cubans. It was not just the Cubans. Oh, see. It was not just the Cubans. Like, we absolutely had brown and black Latinos who were being coconuts and bootlickers. Now, if you do break it down by country of origin, true. Mexican Americans overwhelmingly went for Kamala. But guess how many Mexican Americans we have who are also participating in ICE, who are also engaging in this type of anti-black and anti-immigrant rhetoric. So we cannot dismiss it as it being just the white ones. It is a factor, but it's not as simple as that.
Okay. Thank you, Catalina. Dr. Ennis, much love, brother. Thank you. Swan, whatever you want to opine on, and we'll just go straight to the panel, y'all. Make it easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. It's xenophobia that they experience. Like, one time I had a discussion with a man who was Puerto Rican. He was white and had no accent. Okay, even though it is like territory of the U.S. or colony of the U.S., right? The reality is that when he's here on the mainland, he's not going to be experiencing. He's probably not even going to experience xenophobia, not until he says that he is Puerto Rican, right? So I think that people do need to understand those nuances. I do think that the other part to all of this is that, like, people have to understand intersectionality, and they have to understand nuance. So when we talk about xenophobia, we're talking about a person experiencing prejudice or discrimination because they're a foreigner. They're from another country, right? That's what we're talking about. When we talk about racism, we are talking about the systemic oppression of people who are not white, right? And I'll just give a little lesson on this real quick, okay? Maybe this will help people. So when we talk about your race, that's a superficial set of physical characteristics that a society deems important. When we talk about your ethnicity, that would be like your language, your culture, the traditions and things like that that you have, and then nationality is the country that you're born in, right? So yes, xenophobia pertains to different nationality or you being a foreigner, right? When we talk about ethnocentrism or tribalism, even, those would be issues that you have that would exist on the basis of tribe or ethnicity. When it comes to race, racism is a hierarchy created by white people who place themselves at the top. They then created systems, right? That all work together to form the structure of racism that solidifies white people's position at the top of the hierarchy, right? They are afforded privilege through the exploitation of non-white people. Now, this is where the historical part comes into play. When colonizers came over here, they damn near wiped out indigenous people, right? Because of their disease and all of the other things, like the horrible things that they did, right? And African people were brought over here, right? And they were enslaved. There was an attempt at enslaving indigenous people, right? So although we do have moments that we share together historically, there are some differences just because of the way that things played out, right? And I think that that's what people need to understand. And we talk about the Latino community, right? Indigenous people and Black people, again, they'd be at the, in terms of experiencing the most racial disparities. And white Latino people or Hispanic people, they would be the ones that are benefiting from that. Those are the people that are born from people who came from Spain, like my great grandmother. She was born in Puerto Rico, but her parents came over to Puerto Rico from Spain. They are white. They had a business that they opened up in Puerto Rico, right? But so I'm saying those things to get people to try and maybe just understand that this is about education. Education would clear up a lot of the frustration that people have with each other, and understand that our education is constantly being robbed from us. I'm sorry, Smitty. I'm gonna say this last thing. There's a woman in the comment section I was talking to just now. She works for the government, and she specializes in not allowing the government to erase our history. There's something called colonial amnesia and imperialist amnesia, and this is weaponized against us all the time, right? This is when they take, this is why they'll, when we open our textbooks, they call these white colonizers that came over here people that were discoverers. They pedestalize them as if they did something great when that's not the truth. They unalived so many indigenous people that it damn near cooled not damn near, it cooled the temperature of the entire planet, right? When they talk about black people who were enslaved, that's where the history starts. They don't tell us anything about what life was like for us on the continent, but they'll go further back when they talk about European history, right? So
Mm.
so understand that these things have been taken from us, and that's violence, right? So actively going over your history and re-educating yourself is crucial. I guarantee you that would clear up about 50% of the issues and tension that we have in this room is if we knew our true history. And I'll end there for now.
All right. Thank you, Swan. All right, Noah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop down after this. I gotta
Okay.
do some birthday things, but really appreciate what Swan just said and also what Des said earlier. I wanted to give them some props as well. Particularly as it pertains to like the US having a role within racial hierarchy in Latin America and like the way that race functions in Latin America. I'm not that familiar with like Puerto Rico, but I'm pretty interested in Cuba as like a Marxist Leninist, and it's really wild. But like, obviously Cuba was colonized by Spain, and Spain instituted a horrific racial system in Cuba. I believe in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a U.S. backed leader, Batista, who the U.S. installed, right? And he actually made racial oppression worse. Like he actually exacerbated it, right? And it also just reminds me of what I said earlier, that I like received a little bit of pushback in the chat about like Black people being patriotic. I don't think people have really reconciled with how evil the United States is, like how singularly evil this country is, and how like even this other colonial entity being Spain instituting slavery, right, in Latin America, the United States somehow managed to make it even more like oppressive, right? But yeah, I'll leave there. Appreciate you having me,
Okay,
bro.
man. I hear it's your birthday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm about to join the Unk Club with you.
Oh
Feliz
man, you got a long way to
cumpleaños.
go before that,
Happy
brother, man. I always
birthday.
appreciate you having me
Happy
up, man.
birthday, little brother.
Thank you, Harmony. Appreciate y'all. All right.
Yeah. Have a great day, bro. All right. All right. Very good. Love having that brother up here. Let me go to go ahead. I think Declan, we already kind of worked you in. Let me just skip around a little bit. Let me go to the new panelist. Ania, go ahead, fam. What are your thoughts on Black Brand Unity?
Hi, yes. Can you guys hear me well?
Mm-hmm.
My name is Anaya, and I'm only 20 years
Naya.
old, so I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to claim to have the most education. I have not even gone to college, but I've worked jobs, and I did graduate from high school. And I think a lot of this, I agree with everybody, is about education and how that's being taken away from us. But I also would like to hear a few words being said more. I think ignorance and pride and empathy are a few important words to me that I like to bring up a lot. Empathy is a big one because we're desensitized to a lot of stuff, and it makes people ignorant, whether they realize they're being ignorant or not in situations. And you don't even necessarily have to just be white to be ignorant. I've met a lot of ignorant people. She was in the military himself, so I got to grow up with the privilege of not struggling as much as others. But I am also a lesbian, and my girlfriend did not have that opportunity and grew up struggling, and she grew up throughout hoods and homeless and all of that. So I've heard a lot of different experiences throughout my life, and I think that the struggle that the government puts upon just anybody is wrong, and I think that's the main point that we need to be focusing on. And I think a lot of people, their pride gets hurt when they feel like they're not being heard or listened to. And it's not like a competition to be heard. Like, yeah, it is a competition to be heard, because I don't want to sound like that, because there is certain groups that need to be heard right now more than other groups. And some people can be loud and wrong as well, but that's where the education comes in. But I feel like people's pride gets in the way a lot of why, in the first place, I feel like a lot of people aren't even willing to just stop letting the government take control of us in the first place and stop working and stop doing all of this because we feel like we have that need, that we need them, or that we're going to look like we're failing to other people, or just pride. And
Yeah, just real quick. I'm trying to just gauge on your thoughts. I hear what you're saying overall, but just if you could just relate that real quick, maybe for like 30 seconds,
yeah,
to
I got
Black
you.
and Brown
I'm
Unity
gonna wrap it up.
specifically. Go ahead.
Because I've also met a lot of Spanish people. I don't know if I'm saying correctly Spanish people, or my friends specifically Puerto Rican, Black, Puerto Rican, mixed, whatever. Even sometimes they realized they were being ignorant towards me without even realizing, and I just took the time to sit down and educate them and realize, like, hey, that hurt my feelings. You're my friend, but we don't have to just part ways. I can let you know why I'm feeling this way and why this makes me uncomfortable and why I feel like you're wrong, and I'm gonna hear you out too. And the problem was resolved after that. And of course, it doesn't always go like that, but I do feel like we're getting closer to. I feel like we are getting closer within the brown and Black communities, but I feel like it's also like trauma bonding and relating through struggle because of the oppression that our groups are being put upon us. So I feel like we just need to really focus on the empathetic side and realize with that we have to unite with people and hear people and not let our pride get in the way of our ears not open.
Okay. Yeah, I just
Can I
wanted to
just
say
say
real
something
quick.
right quick, Smitty?
Oh,
Can I just
yeah.
say
Let me
something
just
right
come in, and then Panda, I'll come to you. Yeah, I just want to say real quick. You are very, very, very intelligent, very empathetic. I can hear it in your voice. Let's make sure that we define our intelligence by our talents, right? By our ability to communicate and by our ability to connect, right? No degree that I got or anybody else got does not define our intelligence. So I just want you to know that you're going to take the path that you feel is best for you, and I wish nothing but the best for you. But you are clearly very intelligent, and I'm so happy that you stayed in the request long enough for me to pull you up. So I just want you to know that and take that with you from this
Sorry
point.
for requesting you so much. I was very eager,
Absolutely.
but I just had to say that one thing. And I love everybody, and no matter what anybody thinks, at the end of the day, it's all about what the influence they're putting on us is. So you can be wrong. Everybody can be wrong. Just be willing to hear people out. And if they're wrong, you can respectfully call them out on it after, but just be willing to be open ears, because that's when people's pride starts to get in the way and people start to talk over each other and not hear each other out. And that's where the mess comes in.
It's
I
people
just
my age that don't get that, fam. I appreciate what you said.
can I get my
I think
flowers
Panda
real
wants to
quick?
come in, but this one, go ahead. Whoever wants to come in, go ahead.
So I
No,
just
I
want to
just
say to the chat, like, y'all are forgetting what it was like to be 20, first of all. And if I had the type of ability to reflect and have empathy for others at her age at 20, I probably would have been a better person at 20. Our job
Absolutely.
as we get older is to show grace to the youth and to not get in their way, get the F out their way and be supportive. I just don't understand where you guys are forgetting what it's like to grow up or to have that one adult in your life that didn't show you grace and didn't create a safe space for you to grow on an intellectual level. And I just want to say, how do you pronounce your name? Because I want to get it right.
Oh, it's Anaya.
Anaya. I think you're extremely educated. I think you're extremely smart. I think that if we have more people with your ability to have discernment and to have a sense of empathy for others, we're going to be okay. And I'm happy with putting my future in your hands. And I
Amen.
hope whatever it is you decide to do in the future, I just know you're going to be great at it. And I just am sorry for some of the unkindness in the chat. And it's been an honor to share this panel with you. And chat, be kinder, show grace. Remember what it's like to be 20.
Thank you, Panda. I appreciate you. All right, Swan, real quick, and then I want to go to Harmony, and then I want to get Daz and Jermaine. So we'll go Swan, Harmony, Des, Jermaine. We're kind of getting to the end of the live. Please tap the screen. I think this has been talk about education. Whew, very educational. Go ahead, fam.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I think that you brought the emotional aspect to this conversation, talking about empathy, and empathy can definitely be regained through education. That's something that allows you to I guess, dig deeper and to understand your own emotions better, which is going to help you connect to other people, right? So I just want to tell you that you brought that aspect to the conversation that none of us talked about, right? Everybody's kind of feeling abrasive towards each other, where there's a lot going on in this discussion. But when you bring up empathy, that is so, so, so important, because white supremacy will drain people of having empathy for others. And empathy is important, just as important as being educated. So I thank you for bringing that up in this conversation. And please don't ever doubt yourself or talk down about yourself in any way, shape, or form, because we needed your message today. We did. I also gave you a follow. I appreciate what you said.
Oh, that's awesome. I love this. Love it. Love it. Love it. Go ahead, Harmony, fam.
Yeah, I just want to echo like what Swan said and Black Panda. You are exactly where you need to be, and you're exactly on the right path, especially starting with empathy. We cannot go into any type of, decolonization process or, teaching community or, building community, et cetera, if it's not rooted from love and empathy. So thank you for highlighting that. And I'm sorry that, you have a lot of people in this chat that are being very anti-Black and want to assert some sort of a dominance on you because you are a woman and because you are younger, right? That's what I saw in the chat. And I don't think they're ignorant. I just think that they have a decolonization process that a lot of them are not willing to do. Because even we're talking about solidarity, unity, whatever you want to call it, you still got clearly white people in this chat calling themselves caramel. Like, be so for real. And calling themselves Black. And it's just Black erasure. There's been a lot of anti-Blackness and a lot of misogynoir in this chat, unfortunately. So you and I just wanted to give you your flowers. Again, like, I believe solidarity is greater than unity, and we must continue to decolonize, but it must be rooted in love and empathy.
Thank you, Harmony. I appreciate that message. Let me go to Des, and then we'll go to Jermaine. And yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Des.
Yeah, I second Harmony. I wanted to add to Swan real quick because she brought up some really good points about re-educating and everything. But I also wanted to say that, and I guess remind the people calling themselves caramel color and all of that, that you're going to be, a lot of people forget you're perceived differently in these Latin American countries than in the US. So while some, and I totally get it, and I agree with Anaya and the empathy route, I empathize a lot with a lot of people that are, whiter and all of that in the United States. I have to carry their passport and do feel marginalized. But I also know that there's a perception to them in their home countries a lot of times, and they don't have to worry about the same things. So there is like a difference that kind of gets missed. I feel like, speaking from Puerto Rico, there are going to be whiter Puerto Ricans that don't have to worry about a lot of things, that have never left the island, and then maybe they go to Massachusetts or whatever and they see something that ruffles them in a way that they never experienced on the island, because they don't face police brutality down here, and they are in a higher class in a lot of ways down here, things that they won't really see or they don't want to acknowledge. So I definitely want to acknowledge that, because even though they might live one experience in Puerto Rico, they're going to live a different one in Massachusetts, but also, they're not going to have that same experience as some of the other Latino people in the United States and Black people in the United States. And I think they get on defense when they get to the United States a lot of times, and they start saying, oh, well, we experienced this and that. I mean, yes, as colonial subjects of the United States, we do experience things, but also you can't just invent that. You experience a sort of racism that did not exist when you lived your whole life in Puerto Rico or wherever it was that you lived in. So I just wanted, what Swan said kind of made me made me rethink a lot of that, because I know that that is a sentiment that does not want to be acknowledged when it comes to those two different experiences.
Okay. All right. Des, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much, fam, for coming up. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again.
Of course. Of course. All right. We're gonna go to Jermaine. Go ahead, brother. Happy birthday, by the way. Another birthday in the house.
Did you let Nichelle up, Smitty?
Felicidades, Jermaine.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. Maybe I'm like Unc status now. Maybe.
Not
But
yet.
no, I
Not yet.
think
Not
this
yet.
has
Not yet.
not yet, Smitty. Okay, all right. I'm just
Go
trying to be
ahead. Go
like you,
ahead,
man. It's been a great discussion, a great panel of ladies, just spitting fire. By the way, if I knew what I think Anaya knew when I was 20, I'd be on a whole different level.
Right.
But I think unity is a very broad term. Because like, what does it look like, right? So I think that I don't think we can get like 100% unity. I think that's unrealistic, but we can get enough unity, right? Then I think it's possible. I think unity is increasing. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like the conditions of this country is shaping more unity, but it's also at the same time shaping more like reactionary people, and more oppositions at the same time. So it's just like we have to outpace the reactionary. We have to outpace like the people who are standing in the way of it at the same time. So I don't think full unity is possible because again, people get left behind. People are gonna get left behind, and that's okay. Like they don't need to be with us. We don't need everybody with us at the same time. So we cannot strive for perfection, but we need to strive for just good enough to where we can create more structural and societal changes. So I think defining like what is unity, what does it look like to us, right? Let's not strive for perfection. Like our leaders and past organizers, they never strive for perfection, but they strive for structural change. Blackness, right? It is a worldwide phenomenon. Like it is worldwide, not even just domestically, but all across the world. And it has comes to people acknowledging that, hey, anti-blackness is a major problem. It is the root of all causes and damages in the world, especially here in America. So I do have a lot of hope, like Smitty, seeing these young kids out here walking out of school and protesting against ICE. It gives me hope for full unity. I mean, enough unity. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very optimistic. That's due to like the youth, like because that takes a lot of courage and bravery. You know, we're talking about kids, one of the most oppressed class outside of women, right? Standing in the West, fighting for protesting and injustice. So it gives me unity. It gives me hope.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that, bro. All right. Nichelle has a message for you, and then we'll probably close it out on that. Go ahead, Nichelle.
Good morning, everybody. Happy birthday, Jermaine. I do want to say this really quick before I sing to you. In terms of when it comes to, Black and Brown unity, I hope that we all stay focused on who the actual like enemy is, right? It's not each other. And I think everyone else has beautifully articulated some of the issues and anti-Blackness and xenophobia and things like that amongst our communities. I see someone that identifies as FBA in the chat and doing all of that rhetoric. I think something that Swan had said that I think is like just really hits it on the head for me, is that education, right? And not just like, for me, it's not just like book knowledge. It's not just like, oh, okay, I read a book and now I kind of understand your history. It's spending time in spaces where we can listen and learn from each other's experiences, because we often talk a lot, and we saw yesterday, Smitty, on your live, we see it a lot on a lot of different panels, about personal experiences, right? And painting communities with a broad brush incorrectly. So I do, I think lives like this, where we get a chance to kind of express ourselves and learn from each other and maybe identify some biases or blind spots that we may have, or some, internal, I don't know, ideologies or whatever about a different community. I think that helps a lot. So I just wanted to point that out, because lived experiences are very different, and it kind of colors, if you will, interactions that we have with each other. So I just wanted to point that out there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, okay. I
Michelle,
know
I have a
Catalina, you want to
question.
come in. Let me just let Naya, I gotta let you go. Anything else you want to say, fam? The floor is yours, and then Carolina, I'll come to you.
Yeah.
Naya, you still there? You're on mute if you're speaking, fam.
Oh yes, sorry. I
No,
just
you're
wanted to
good.
say one last quick thing. I saw a comment saying that their experience was giving out empathy and not receiving it back. But my experience as a person who does that a lot is honestly you gain more from giving it out, even if you don't think you receive it back, because a lot of people automatically don't think that they deserve empathy, or the way that they are, the type of person they are, they move like they don't deserve empathy. You might have gave them that one little empathy, whatever empathetic moment that they didn't think that they could get, even if they react in a way that might not be tasteful towards you. You got to take it to the chin sometimes and know the type of person that you are, because at the end of the day, you shed light on them, and you could have pride in that, and that's a good type of pride. And it's not always necessarily a bad thing if they're not showing signs of giving it back. Sometimes you just have to keep going, and you just have to break people with your light, because there's too much darkness and they might just have too much darkness in them. You just have to either keep going. You can give up on the person if you want to and go give your light to somebody else who will give it back to you. Either way, it's never a bad thing to give out empathy.
That's right. Naya, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the panel. I hope you have an amazing day.
I appreciate you guys.
Naya is the reason I believe that the youth are going to be all right.
All right, let's do this. Yeah, go ahead, Catalina. I know you want to jump in.
I wanted to share an anecdote real quick because, and normally I try not to get as caught up in the comments. So I've been referencing the comments a lot today because it's been pissing me off. But I wanted everybody on this panel to hear this. And this is really important. The reason, like, I've seen some comments directed at me in the chat and also gotten some message requests about why are you going so hard for the Black community over your own community. I don't know what y'all think, but you're not my community. Like, if you're not Indigenous, like, I don't know what to say to you. We're part of an ethnic umbrella, but we're also not the same. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But the reason why I want to bring this up, the other day, I had this emergency situation, and thank goodness that Smitty and all of you guys came through for me. And I had a white Puerto Rican who I used to be mutuals with get upset about me calling out colorism and anti-Blackness and appropriating Afro-Latino identity. And is now like going around and spreading this. She's not really significant, but going around and spreading to people. Oh, she was panhandling on TikTok, because I had an emergency that I could not get past, and my friends chose to show up for me. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because while yes, some people who are Indigenous or Latino helped me out, it was predominantly my mutuals who are Black content creators who showed up for me. And this is also just the history of my life. Sometimes I have been the only Indigenous person in a room, and it was the Black people in the room, not the quote unquote Hispanic or Latinos, who encouraged me. Black women have been like the people who have pushed me furthest in my career to support me in everything that I go after for my education and what I do in life. So when you guys say stuff like that, like, I take personal offense. I have been on panels where I'm combating pretendianism and anti-Blackness at the same time, and I will get people who come up on panel and call me a Black B word. I'm not even racially ambiguous for where people could confuse me as Black, but it's because of the negative stereotypes that they have about Black women that they assume I must be like that because I'm pushing back on their bullshit. And so I just wanted to share that, like, for when y'all are sitting in the comments crying about who's giving unity and who's giving solidarity, like, y'all are not the ones who even show up for me, and you're allegedly my community. And I just wanted to share that and just reiterate how much I appreciate y'all, and how, like, the love and care that y'all show me is absolutely reciprocated and, like, will never go unnoticed. So I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Thank you, Carolina, for that. I appreciate that. Let me just bounce up, just because we don't have that much time. Let me bounce up to the new panelist, Stephanie. I know you want to come up and share some your thoughts, so I want to give you an opportunity. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, good morning, everybody. If you guys hear my birds, it's going crazy. I just want to say that I'm very proud for everybody that's been talking because you guys seem like you know a lot about this topic. Um, very educated. But I wanted to bring something up, which is a study that I saw on TikTok that was made, I think, in Spain or somewhere there, where they put two dolls in front of children, a black doll and a white doll. And they said, who is the bad one? And all the kids said the black doll. Why? Because if you think about it, when you say, oh, what's good or bad? They say good, the good is the white and the bad is the black. So they used this color to point out which one is bad and which one is good. And it starts at home, guys. It starts at home, and I'm Latino, Hispanic, whatever y'all want to call me, and I'm very ignorant in that topic because I stay out of it, because I can't take it. I'm very sensitive, honestly. And the fact that I'm here and speaking to you guys is like a surprise to myself, but I just wanted to bring it up. Like, there are racists. Like, as a Hispanic Latino, we call negritos. Like, no te vayas con los negritos. Don't go with the, you know, it's in our culture. And to say that we're not taught that is crazy. And it's not just Latinos and African Americans and white. It's just what it is. The world gave it a color. And everybody agreed upon that. Unless, of course, if you're black, we don't, like, if you're dark colored skin, we don't agree with it. Because why teaching our kids to pick a color and say, oh, black is bad and white is good? I'm probably not sharing or giving out my point correctly, but I just wanted to bring that up, that it's been put in our heads since we are very young that to separate us, separate us from color to color, to race to race. And
let me ask
it's
you a
really
question.
sad.
Yeah, let me ask you a question real quick, and then I think I saw a couple hands that came up. We got 10 minutes, y'all. So, you said that you kind of stay out of it. What do you mean when you say you kind of stay out of it? What is that? Because obviously you're doing research and you're looking at these studies that you've seen.
When
When
I
you say that, what do you
don't go,
mean?
like, I don't like to try to change people's opinion, because it's really hard, because and people get really aggressive or start insulting you, right? And I'm like, oh, they're gonna learn, because believe it or not, you will live it. You either be a bystander, or it will happen to you, or you'll be the one doing it. But you will live it.
Okay. So a couple people want to, I think, interact with you. I think I saw Harmony's hand. I saw Michelle's
I
hand.
did. Yeah, I did. So yeah, I don't know how old you are. I'm older. I have grandkids, and I will say, as I try to share this with you, in love, that you cannot stay out of it. Right? That's a privilege to say that you're able to stay out of it. And I know that other people, want to respond, and I don't want it to feel like anybody is dogpiling on you, but that is a privilege. That's a privilege to be able to stay out of it. We have to speak out all the time. We have to call it out all the time, regardless if it makes you feel uncomfortable. You know, for Black people, right? We can't stay out of it because we're always put in it, right? I recently had a very, very traumatic experience with a police officer and my daughter with profiling, and it was catastrophic, right? I don't have an opportunity to stay out of it, right? I think that's a very I don't know how else to say it, kind of that indifference can cause harm, right? So if you're in community and you hear, racial slurs, if you hear something terrible, and even if it's not epically terrible, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, imagine how someone else is feeling, where that harm has been directed, right? I think it's important to find your voice. I think it's important to find a way to be able to speak out. And the last thing that I didn't get to say earlier, when we have these conversations, this is some of the barriers, right, to that solidarity, Smitty. And I see a lot of people in the chat as we were all talking about unity and we're all talking about these wonderful things. A lot of people have been harmed. A lot of people have been hurt. And it's hard to kumbaya. It's hard to hold hands in solidarity when those hands aren't clean, right? People have to do the work to deconstruct. People have to do the work and understand their own biases and challenge their own narratives. Like she said, I saw that study. I saw the one that's old. There's a lot of studies about that. I just wanted to point that out. You can't stay out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to go to Harmony, but real quick, before I do, Nichelle broached the subject about what happened with her and her daughter. Obviously, I'm not going to expand on that, but I will just say that, if the community can rally behind her for what happened, it is absolutely atrocious what happened. I will let her tell that story. I'm not gonna obviously share anything, but absolutely, you know me, I'm gonna be cool, but absolutely atrocious. That's being nice. That's being really nice. I'll just leave it there. But let me go to Harmony. Go ahead, fam. I think we got 5 minutes.
I will say, hold on, Stephanie, you're not Harmony. I will say this first and foremost, Nichelle, I'm sorry that happened to your daughter. If you want to let us know, you just know that you have support. But that should have never happened, whatever it was. And then second, Stephanie, you said that you're Hispanic, Latino, or whatever you want to call me. But that's the thing, these are important identifiers, right? And the way you said Latino as if it's a race, Latino is not a race. We are an ethnic group. Hispanic means that you just come from a Spanish-speaking country. Not every Latino is Hispanic. Haitians are not Hispanic. Portuguese are not Hispanic, but they're Latino. Well, the Haitians, they don't speak Spanish. And when you talked about race, you said, well, race is something we all created and then we all just accepted it. No, white Portuguese created race to intentionally oppress and enslave African people, Black people. And that is basically the root of the transatlantic slave trade. They created this system of race to a racial hierarchy. I may have misspoke. I meant Brazilians, though. The Portuguese created this system of racial hierarchy intentionally to enslave Black Africans. That is why the system of race was created. Then under racism, you have colorism, right? And colorism is not exclusive to just Black people. There's colorism in Asian communities and all across Latin America, even within indigenous communities, right? And it's all rooted in anti-Blackness. So when you simplify it as just, you can call me what you want, and you're saying these terms, and it's just misinformation and it creates anti-Blackness. So I think maybe you just need to study race more and the structures behind it, and do a little bit more studying about white supremacy and how it has indoctrinated us as a people. Sorry, I need to drink some water. But I'll land with that. Again, I'm all for solidarity. Nichelle, that just pissed me off. So you just have support, sis. But yeah, thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you, Harmony. Penn, if you can be real quick, and then Michelle's got a message.
I'm just
for
gonna make
Janae.
it real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm not gonna address Stephanie. I just think it's really ridiculous. TikTok, we've been on TikTok too long discussing colorism and racism for way too long. I'm just gonna end here. I really want the FBA, please stop touching the thermostat. You're effing it up for all of us. We're all getting in trouble for you touching the thermostat, FBA. Leave the thermostat alone. Please go back to the corner and play with your toys and just stop touching shit. You're messing it up.
And everybody have a great day. Oh, and
All
Pam
right.
Bondi's losing her ish on
I've
was losing her
heard.
ish earlier, so
I've
definitely go
heard.
watch that.
I've heard.
It's a sight to behold.
I've heard. Do y'all want me to cover that? I've stayed away from that whole thing. Do y'all want me?
Yes.
You think I should, Panda?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, it was great.
Please do.
She
Okay.
was wilding out. She was
Okay.
wilding out.
Okay. All right. Let me go to Nichelle. Go ahead, fam. We got 1 minute left.
Okay. Jermaine, listen, love you, fam. Just wanted to sing happy birthday to you. If Noah is still in here, happy birthday. That's it. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Love you dearly.
I
Hope you have a
appreciate
wonderful
it so
day.
much. Someone cutting some onions around me. I don't know who it is.
Yes,
But,
voice. Michelle
like y'all are
Perry.
too kind. I appreciate.
Now I'm crying. Amen.
I appreciate this space, Smith. Thank you for allowing me in this space full of great women on this panel. Just in general, just always just humbling coming across these strong, opinionated women. You know, I definitely feel like it grounds me a lot. You know, so but I appreciate it. Much love to you all, though.
To have the ability to do that, knowing what you're going through, fam. The love of Black women and women of color is just incredible.
There's no greater love than love from a Black woman.
It's
Like
just,
no greater
it's
love.
just
Nothing.
incredible. Much love, y'all. I'll see y'all later.
Have a good one.
All right.
Take care.
Have a good